Hey, this is End of the Road Haunts, and today I am doing a Spirit Halloween 2023 tier list. Hope to do one for the rest of the years, and this one's been a little hard to make because the screen recordings have been very strange. So I'm just gonna do this, gonna try and edit together what I can. You wouldn't be hearing this if the video wasn't posted though, so whatever. Anyways, let's begin with the first one, which is Eternal Rest. Eternal Rest is one that I think is definitely quite underrated. Not amazing, not great, but underrated. I've seen people saying she's worse than Tombstone Terror, which is such BS, my opinion. And like, she's not great, she was quite faulty, but I won't be judging quality here. And she looked good in person. Her audio was a little much. Not great though. So I'll say around C tier. Or no, that's B. I'll say around C tier. Because she's not awful, like not bottom of the list, but again, she's not impressive enough to be like higher on the list. Next is Slim, which depending on when you caught me in the year, I'd be saying maybe even S. Right now I think he's D tier. He's not very good in my opinion. He just looked terrible in person. Like, his face was warped, his clothes were warped. He just looked so strange and, like, cheaply made. I don't know, I wasn't really a fan of that. And also, he's just squandered potential. He could have been so much more, but he just had the bag. Just kinda a waste, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions, but mine included. So, for that, he's going in D tier. Not that fond of him. The next one is the Cotton Candy Cocoon. This one will be unpopular to put above Slim, but I'm going to say C tier. And the reason why is because there's nothing offensively bad about him. His price is a little high, but I mean, he's a static prop and he works for what he is. Honestly, he was better than the Trick or Treat Studios one. And he's not bad, not terrible. Again, not the higher half of the list, but like, he doesn't look awful. And it wasn't exactly squandered potential either, so C tier. Next we have Stilts, which is one that definitely grew on me throughout the season. Honestly, I'm going to say B tier. I love his animation. Or, well, maybe not love, but I like his animation. I like his looks. I like his voice. I think the whole, like, calling him a Happy Meal toy is a little silly in my opinion. I like his color scheme too. He's a very Halloween-y type clown. But I'm not going to put him any higher because he's nothing that crazy. He's nothing that unique like some of the other clowns on this list. He's not a bad one, but he's not an amazing one. So for that, I'm going to put him at B tier, which is like, B tier's alright. And the next one is Leatherface. It's cool that we got Leatherface from Spirit this year. And the Mr. Punchy animation isn't that bad for it. But he just could have been better. Because, like Slim, he looked a little weird in person with his proportions and stuff. Wasn't very detailed. And also his audio really brings him down. Like the Lowe's one had okay audio. The Party City one had amazing audio. But this one's just grunting was super strange in my opinion. And he wasn't bad. I like this spinning chainsaw. But they could have done a lot better on him, in my opinion. Okay. Next up on the list, we have Heckled, who honestly, I'm going to put at A tier. I'm not that big on Seasonal Visions clowns, personally, but this guy's just great. I love his character. He looked really good. I loved his color scheme. The whole concept of him not only being a sad clown, something we never see, by the way, but being a sad clown trying to sell you a demon in a balloon that's, like, tormenting him, that's a really cool concept. And, like, the way I see it, he, like, maybe, killed some children, but now their ghosts have come back to haunt him, so he's trying to, like, sell them back to you. I mean, that's just my personal story for him. But, like, he's just a really cool concept. His detail was great. Sure, his facial deformities were a little weird. But after that, his details were great, looked realistic. I really enjoyed Heckled. I kind of want to get him. I didn't, but, he's on my mind as something I'd want to get. I thought he was really cool. A tier. Next one is Deathstalker, who, a few months ago I would have put at S tier. And granted, he is pretty close to S tier, which is why I'll put him at A. He's not, and, he's not the best of the best, honestly. Because sure, he is pretty unique, but really, we've seen a few cloaked things with big mouths from Spirit in our time. So, he's not the most original. And, he has quite a lot of black cloth. But other than that, he's great. I love the audio. His animation's pretty simple, but it works. He does look pretty good. His, mouth/head is amazingly done. His WTF-ness factor is really great. He's a really cool prop. He's one that I did want to get a bit. I didn't, but, he was a cool one. I was definitely happy to see them making something like this, because I love the weird creatures. But yeah, Deathstalker's an A tier in my opinion. Next, we have Menacing Molly, who's a strange one, because this is one that I remember people really loving back in 2017 and 18. And then when she came back this year, I saw so much hate for her, which I don't understand, because she's not a bad prop. She's honestly pretty cool, one of the better possessed girls we've ever gotten. Granted, I'm not really that big into possessed girl props, so, whatever. But, she's cool. I was glad to see her back. Not the best of the best, but B tier. Definitely a pretty good return in my opinion. Next, we have Ghost Swing, which I don't vehemently hate. I don't loathe Ghost Swing to the core. Don't really get why they brought it back. But I can't really say anything that positive about it. Its audio is a little tacky. Maybe it would have been better if, it had, just wind sounds. Pretty pricey for what it is. And, I don't know. A lot of people put her at F tier, but especially with, the theory of relativity and all that, F tier. There's nothing to say about Ghost Swing, really. The next one we have is the Gargoyle, who was one that, again, was a little neat to see back, but he was a little too pricey, and of course, compared to other things on this list, he's just a set piece, He's just, something you put on your display to add a little flair. Way too expensive for that. So I'm going to put him with a Cotton Candy Cocoon at C tier, because they're both just little display pieces. Nothing much. The next one we have up here is the Black Heart, who's the first one on this list that I actually got from this year. And so that's pretty cool. So obviously I have to like this one, at least a little bit to get it. And I will say, back in the day I would have put him at S tier. Granted, could have maybe done a little more. Maybe had a little more detail on the clothes. But honestly, I'm going to say A tier. Because he's a really creepy concept, a really cool one. Very classic Halloween-y Reaper. And I think the only reason I'm not putting it at S tier is because it isn't, necessarily knock your socks off. But I put him on the porch this year, and he looked really, really cool, especially with strobe light. The Black Heart was a really solid prop, in my opinion. Glad I got him. Next up, we have Dagger Mike, who is a prop, certainly. Some people really hate him. I don't, but I also don't love it. He's not bad, though. There's nothing that makes him offensively terrible. So I'll put him at B tier. Sure, he looks a little weird, but he's a clown. They're supposed to look a little strange. So, he's not one that I hate, not one that I love. Kind of forgettable addition to this year's lineup, but there's nothing that I have, real gripes with him that I'd put lower on the list. Next, we have Lil Jack Carver, who is one that for some reason I just happen to really like. I don't know why, I just really like Lil Jack Carver. He's just a really neat little fella, in my honest opinion. And, well, there's nothing that would put him in A or even S tier. I'm going to say B tier, maybe above, maybe about there. Because I really like Lil Jack Carver for some reason. His audio isn't the best, but his animation's cool, his concept's cool, I like his face, his detail's neat. Kinda annoying how his pumpkin's only a half pumpkin, but I don't know. I just enjoy Lil Jack Carver, honestly. Next, we have the Crypt Keeper, who is one that even though I haven't seen Tales from the Crypt or anything, he looks good. I like his phrases and his animation's alright, but he's $400 and also unlicensed. And that unlicensed thing just makes me feel really icky inside. And for that, I'm going to put him at D tier. And, his voice isn't that bad in my opinion compared to the real one. But at the same time, like, if Spirit were to do, let's say, a Tall Man animatronic from Phantasm, and they redid the voice lines, I'd absolutely hate that. So if I were like a Tales from the Crypt fan, I can understand how you'd be really peeved about that. So for those reasons, I'm just going to put him at D tier. The unlicensed thing bothers me. Next up, we have Poor George, who was another one that I got this year. And he's not one that I regret getting, because he's really cool. He doesn't really have that, like, goofiness that I like in my clowns to have them really good. But, he's quite creepy. The whole two-face thing's really neat. The spinning is amazing. He's decently gory with the whole, like, cut in half thing. I quite like Poor George. Great addition to the lineup. A nice breath of fresh air for clowns. And for that, I'm going to say A tier. He was pretty damn good. The next one on this list is kind of a weird one, which is Creepy Rising Doll, which is one that I've requested to come back for quite a while, and I think, not to brag, it might have been one of the driving forces in it coming back. Yet for some reason, when it came out and came time for me to buy my animatronics, I just kind of went and didn't really care about Creepy Rising Doll for some reason. I mean, I think there are two big peeves I have with it. A, the new one's face is a lot cleaner, and which is a little bit of a turn away for me. And also, the new one just barely rises. It rises like a foot, which isn't that menacing, honestly. It's like, the original I think was like 5 feet, rose to 6.5. And like, that's pretty damn menacing. Something that's not that tall becoming quite tall. Like, that's spooky. That's menacing. But the fact that this one started from like 5 feet and then rose to just like 6, it's like, oh, thing becomes a little taller. Ooh. And plus, its clothing ain't anything that much. So, kind of like Dagger Mike, nothing offensively bad. But, things change. Like, I don't know why it, like, grew off on me, kind of. But, whatever. I'm gonna put Creepy Rising Doll at B tier. The next one we have is Grave Watcher, who's one that returned for this year, and I don't really get why. I'm gonna put it at C tier. I don't really get why Grave Watcher returned. I don't really like Grave Watcher. I have no caring about it. It's one that I passed by in the store and like just didn't care about at all. I don't get why Grave Watcher returned. I personally don't quite get the hype, honestly. And speaking of not getting the hype, we got another C tier one, which is Scary Sitting Scarecrow. Cause look, the original Sitting Scarecrow came out in 2016, which was the first year that I got into this stuff. Even so, I don't really care about the original. I think he's pretty overhyped in my opinion. Cause it's kind of a cool concept, but I also don't have much of a use for it, considering like what was there handing out candy in person. And just a remake was something that nobody really asked for. Kind of copy of Wicked Makers. I wouldn't really say so, honestly. But whatever. It's just not one that I care about. Not one that I asked for. Meh. The next one is Gordo. Which, he's just a neat little fella. That's the best way I can describe him. A neat little fella. And so for that, he lands himself at B. People complain about the pillar a lot. I don't really mind. The jump scare's kind of neat. He's like pretty sizable. Just a neat little guy. If you have like a farm display or graveyard theme, he fits pretty well. And next, we have our first S tier, in my opinion, of the list, which is Cauldroness. Yes, I know I had the whole Cauldroness's peak meme, which, yes, it is a joke. I'm joking around when I say that, because the Cauldroness isn't the best of the year. Maybe not even the best for Spirit. I don't know. but I just find it really cool personally. People find the face really goofy looking, which granted, I do laugh at the memes. I make the memes. But, I mean, the Cauldroness, the face is just really weird and toad-like. Just something I really like. I love her voices and her voice and phrases. The whole fog thing is awesome. Such a cool concept. And I never expected myself to like a witch so much, but I mean, here we are. The Cauldroness is just something, it's just a really cool prop in my opinion. Okay, the next one on the list is Emmeline, who's one that I think is a wee bit overrated, but she's not terrible. You know, I can see why people like her. The animation's pretty cool, the looks are pretty cool. All around, she's pretty cool. Her audio's pretty good. It's just that I don't really think she's a perfect animatronic. There are a lot of people who think she's like the best of the year. I wouldn't say so. I think there's definitely more you can do with an animatronic than, you know, Emmeline. But she is pretty neat. Her mechanism is something that I think I'd want to see reskinned in the future. Could do some pretty cool stuff with that. I almost got her this year. Didn't end up doing it, but whatever. I'm going to put her at A tier. She was pretty solid, in my opinion. Not the best, but pretty good. Next up, we have Desmodus, who is, in my opinion, another A tier. He was just really cool. I liked the animation, liked the concept, liked the audio. All around, just a solid prop. Not much more I can say. Next is Thresher, who is, he's just a really weird prop. You know, the walkthrough is kind of weird on him. His looks are kind of weird. His audio is kind of weird. Just a general bizarre prop, in my opinion. So for that, I'm just going to say D tier. The next one we have on this list is Darling Dolly, who's one that I liked before. I liked her. I thought she was pretty cool. Decided to get her because, you know, why not? And after getting her, she quickly became one of my favorite props in my collection. And therefore, she is certainly an S tier. Because she's cool on every single aspect. The jump scare is amazing. It actually makes your stomach fall a little bit when you're right in front of her. She looks super creepy. Her audio is terrifying. Just a really weird concept. Because sure, like, Creepy Rising Doll is a similar thing. But with the weird, like, twig-like flesh hands, she's just so weird and creepy. And for that, I'm putting her at S tier. I really enjoyed her. The next one on this list is Martian Warrior, who was another really cool one for this year, in my opinion. Pretty overpriced. Maybe not the best, but he's one that I did quite like. I liked seeing him in person. His audio was okay. He was cool. He was big. Maybe not an A tier. Probably a very high B. Probably above Stilts because we don't get a lot of aliens from Spirit. And so it's quite cool to see that. The Water Mister was cool. All around, a pretty neat prop in my opinion. Now we're coming to the last three. First of these being Howling Spirit, which is one that some people do quite like. I don't like Howling Spirit, honestly. And he has his uses from time to time. Like, he can be kind of cool with the whole levitating thing. But, I mean, you know, comparing him to W. Wraith, at least W. Wraith had a pretty neat animation. This guy just doesn't have much going for him. The 2D face is a little weird. So for that, I'm just going to put him at D tier. He just leaves me super cold. Just a very meh animatronic. Not a very big Howling Spirit fan. The last two, which are the most recent ones, are Demonica and Collector's Minion. Demonica was one that I didn't really have any connection to growing up. She wasn't a very nostalgic prop for me. But, you know, she is pretty cool. Her animation is pretty neat. She looks good, sounds good. I mean, she's a neat prop. Not, like, that great in my opinion. Pretty overrated. But, you know, whatever. I still enjoy her. So for that, I'll put her at B tier. Because she's not bad. She's pretty neat. But, you know, not the best animatronic ever made. You know what I'm saying? And the final one is Collector's Minion, who's one that's quite controversial. Some people really like him, some people hate him. He's okay. It's just one of those kind of props that I define as one of the animatronics of all time. So he's not terrible, not as abhorrent as Young Crouchy. I like his voice acting and stuff, but he's just not the best, in my opinion, obviously. They could have done a lot better with him, or just not made him. That would have been fine too, because this is a really unnecessary prop. But I'm going to put him at C tier. Not terrible, but not amazing. So, this is the final tier list. At F tier, which is pretty stinky, we have Ghost Swing. Not much to say. D tier, which is not great, has some things okay about it. That's what D tier is. We have Slim, Crypt Keeper, Thresher, and Howling Spirit for all the reasons I explained. At C tier, which is not great, has some redeeming qualities, we have Leatherface, Eternal Rest, Cotton Candy Cocoon, the Gargoyle, Collector's Minion, Grave Watcher, and Scary Sitting Scarecrow. At B tier, which is good, not the best, but a good addition to the lineup, we have Martian Warrior, Stilts, Lil Jack Carver, Demonica, Menacing Molly, Dagger Mike, Creepy Rising Doll, and Gordo. Almost forgot the names there. B tier is a pretty solid tier. A tier, which is pretty damn cool. We have Deathstalker, Heckles, Blackheart, Poor George, Emmeline, and Desmodus. Pretty good tier. All of these are like really cool. And S tier, best of the year, we have Darling Dolly and Cauldroness. So let me know what you thought of this list in the comments below. I barely say things like this, but please like and subscribe, because this took a damn while to make. The screen recordings just kept quitting randomly, so that was really annoying. But hey, I'm in the editing app now. Everything is imported. But let me know what you thought of the tier list, what you thought of 2023. I thought this was a pretty good year for Spirit. A lot of really good props in here. But yeah, thank you for watching if you made it this far. And I'll see you in the next one. Farewell.